Well, let's start in the Middle East and start with the Telegraph front page here. The headline, Netanyahu rejects Hamas ceasefire. And actually what you've got here is, prior to that, you've got people in Gaza, Palestinians, celebrating the fact that Hamas had agreed to a ceasefire. They, on Monday, accepted the terms. But then the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the proposal was far from Israel's basic requirements and negotiation will continue. And then Israel says it is planning to go into Rafah, which is the last big city in Gaza, which they're going to, they're going to take.
I don't understand how we can even talk about this without breaking down or screaming in fury at what Netanyahu is doing. We have to be clear, this is not the whole of Israel. This is not even all Israeli politicians, but the extreme right wing of the Israeli political spectrum.
Who are in the cabinet.
Yeah. But there's a kind of coalition of extreme right-wing people.
Isn't that Netanyahu you're talking about? Or
it is Netanyahu.
I thought it's the party he's in with who won't let him do anything other than...
No, he is manic. He is determined to do this because his own political future is quite under threat. But, it's just Jordan's King Abdullah, who is a really wise man, all right, actually says that Israel is now going to go into Rafah, which has a huge refugee population, okay, the next massacre. And even a US official said, Netanyahu has not appeared to approach the latest phase of negotiations in good faith.
Okay, Richard, what do you think?
I think it's horrific. I mean, the nightmare continues, and we all want it to stop, of course. And the longer it goes on, the more the tension increases. Actually, I think Yasmin has a point here, which is that Netanyahu is essentially being leveraged, blackmailed by people to the right of him. And
I was saying that Hamas, Yasmin was suggesting he was the man on the right.
I think the reality is, look, we all want the killing to stop. Hamas play a better propaganda war than Israel. That is just the reality. I think there needs to be more discussion about what's the post-ceasefire arrangements. How do we actually secure long-term peace, as opposed to, obviously this is about a ceasefire. They talk about 40-odd days and things. It's obviously incredibly fast-moving. You've got to be slightly careful about reading between the lines, the propaganda.
Isn't it just so one-sided? Isn't that the thing here? That you've got to...
Well, but hang on, let's remember... Look, the reality is both sides are killing each other. Four Israeli soldiers died over the weekend that we know about.
4 soldiers... 30,000 people, Richard, please, equivalence.
Yasmin, it's not a tit for tat. I can kill more than you. It's a war and it's horrific.
4 soldiers, 30,000. That's the minimum number.
Yasmin, let's just remember.
October
the 7th, babies, children, teenagers.
No. There's no equivalence.
Are you saying October the 7th didn't happen?
The 7/7 and where we are now is a completely different story.
Where we are now is a horror.
Let's punishing
Yasmin, do not forget October the 7th.
The poorest, the least well-armed civilians.
So Israeli children and teenagers didn't matter.
Richard.
Yasmin, did October the 7th not matter? Or maybe you think it didn't happen.
I didn't say. Did I say that? Did I say that?
Israeli all deaths is horrific, right? That's the point, and we've got to stop the killing.
Yes, but there is no equivalence anymore, and the problem is we are arming Israel.
Should
we continue to arm Israel?
Hang on. Should Israel at least not go into Rafah on the ground, not send troops into Rafah? Because that's the last big conurbation. And once you have a big flight of people from there, they've got nowhere to go. All kinds of suffering.
Look, the whole thing is absolutely horrific. And I've never been to Gaza, so I don't know the geography. But the point is that what we've got to do is talk about how are we going to stop Hamas governing Gaza post the ceasefire.
How are we going to stop Netanyahu from becoming the operator of a policy that should be unacceptable to all in the world?
It is.
And let me just mention, close to the home.
Stop it.
Close to the home.
But are you calling for the release of the hostages, Yasmin?
Yes, I've always done that.
Right, but I'm
sorry, I see no equivalence anymore.
It's not a tit for tat. But Yasmin,
why
won't Hamas give back all of the hostages to secure a ceasefire?
Why won't Israel do it?
Because they haven't given all
they want to go into Rafah now.
No, you seem to ignore the hostages. It seems
I'm not
that
ignoring.
a Jewish death is worth less.
This has been the argument the right has gone on for. But now we've reached a point where they're going into Rafah, which is largely refugees, and you know it. In your heart, you know it, Richard. You know
I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying go into Rafah,
You know it.
Yasmin.
Okay.
What I'm saying, though, is, Yasmin, you've got to release all of the hostages. And until they do that, you can't have a ceasefire.
So I'm not moving off this important topic, but just to bring it closer to home, in Oxford and Cambridge, you've got students now almost copying the American campus protests. So there we are. Students occupy Oxbridge's Campus Gaza protest spread. Richard, what would be your message to these students?
The right to protest is one thing. What you don't have is the right to incite hatred and anti-Semitism. And too many of these protests, not all, but too many of these protests have actually ended up being deeply anti-Semitic. Some of the things we've seen in American universities and indeed here in the UK, frankly, are appalling, anti-Semitic, racist, and should stop.
I can see Yasmin disagrees. We've got a picture, I think, of an Israeli flag being snatched. Let's have a look at that. Maybe what we just saw. Let's see it again. Okay, so that was on the news yesterday. I mean, I don't know whether. Okay, what do you think?
I think they have the right to protest, and if I was young, I would go and join them, because I think this is really important. I'm old enough to remember the 68 protests about Vietnam, and I was at university in Uganda, and we were protesting in Uganda, and this is, you cannot ignore the voices of the young. They see what's happening. The genocide, the oppression, and it didn't begin with
Does it make campuses unsafe for Jewish students?
There has been 10 years.
Yasmin, do you condemn the anti-Semitism in these marches?
No, I will not.
You do not condemn anti-Semitism in these marches?
No, I'm sorry. Can I finish my sentence?
Let's just be clear on what she's saying.
Let me finish my sentence. They have the right to protest. Protesting on behalf of Palestinians is not anti-Semitism. I've been on the marches, have you?
Yes, I have. I've been on 5 of them, and I have to say I've seen lots of...
Well, I haven't.
I've seen
and
threats, I've seen intimidation.
I went with 7 Jewish friends.
I've seen horrific anti-Semitism.
I went with 7 Jewish friends.
And what
They're just trying...
Yasmin, just hang on.
Trying. Sorry, I'm really upset about this.
So am I. I'm upset about the anti-Semitism that I see on these marches every time I go on them,
They're just trying to discredit legitimate protests on behalf of voiceless Palestinians who are being killed.
Okay.
I am with them all the way.
All right, let's talk about something else.